What is a blockchain? Now, if you watched the episode on Bitcoin, you heard me say the word blockchain, and then I'd cheerfully promise I'd explain it later in another video. Well, here we are. Time to cash that check my big mouth has been writing. Blockchain is one of those words that sounds like it was invented specifically to make you feel dumb. It shows up in every conversation about crypto, and nobody ever stops to explain what it actually means. They just kind of say it with confidence and move on. So let's fix that. And we're going to start with a potato. Let's say you buy a potato at a grocery store. Just a regular potato, nothing fancy. Now, if you wanted to know the entire life story of that potato, here's what it might look like. Farmer Brown grew it in Idaho. He harvested it on a Tuesday, loaded it onto a truck, and drove it to a packing plant. At the packing plant, it was washed, sorted, and boxed up. Trucker Bob picked up the box and drove it to Friday Distributing. Friday Distributing shipped it to your local Kroger, Publix, Piggly Wiggly, wherever you buy groceries. Kevin the stock boy put it on the shelf Wednesday morning at 7:32, and you, my friend, bought that exact same potato on Friday at 3:45 and had a delicious baked potato with dinner that evening. Every step of that journey is a record, a transaction. Farmer Brown to the packing plant to Trucker Bob to the distributor to the store, and the store to you. Now, imagine every one of those steps was written down, time-stamped, and locked in a way that nobody could go back and change it. That's basically what a blockchain is. It's a chain of records. Each record is a block, and each block is linked to the one before it. That's pretty much the whole thing. That's the name, blockchain. Now, most people hear blockchain and think Bitcoin. And yes, blockchain is the technology that makes Bitcoin work. It's the system that tracks every Bitcoin transaction. Who had it, who gave it to who, and when. But now blockchain isn't just for crypto. That potato you saw earlier, some companies are actually doing that right now. They're using blockchain to track the food from the farm to your plate. So if there's an E. coli outbreak in spinach, they don't have to recall every bag of spinach in the country. They can trace it back to the exact farm, the exact field, and the exact day it was harvested. And that saves time, money, and potentially saves lives. Blockchain is also being used to verify the authenticity of luxury goods. So you know your fancy handbag isn't a knockoff. It's being tested for medical records, so you know your health history follows you from doctor to doctor without anyone losing the paperwork. It's being explored for voting systems, real estate records, and even tracking where diamonds came from. But now the idea is always the same. A chain of records that everyone can see and nobody can secretly change. Okay, so now you might be asking, why not just use a spreadsheet? Okay, that's a fair question. If blockchain is just a record of transactions, why not just use a spreadsheet or a database? We've had those for decades. Well, two good reasons. And these are the two things that make blockchain different from everything that came before it. Number one, it's distributed. Now, a regular spreadsheet lives on one computer. Maybe it's backed up somewhere, but there's one master copy and someone is in charge of it. That means whoever controls that computer controls the record. They could change it. They could delete it. They could accidentally copy over it. A blockchain doesn't live on one computer. It lives on millions of computers, all at the same time, all over the world, run by people who have never met, in countries that don't always agree on anything else. Now, smaller private blockchains like the one used for food tracking or medical records might only run on a handful of servers, but the principle is the same. Every one of those computers has the same copy. So, if Trucker Bob wants to go into the record and change 500 potatoes to 400 potatoes, so he can skim 100 off the top, he really can't, because every other computer in the network still has the original number. And they're all simultaneously saying at the same time, nope, that's not what we have. That is not right. In order to do that, Bob would have to compromise millions of computers simultaneously. Yeah, good luck with that, Bob. Okay, and reason number two, it's chained. And now this is the clever part. Each block in the chain gets a fingerprint. Not a literal fingerprint, kind of a mathematical one. You take all the information in a block. Farmer Brown, 500 potatoes. Tuesday, 3 p.m., delivered to the packing plant, and then you run it through a formula that generates a unique code. That code is the block's fingerprint. That exact combination of information will always produce that exact fingerprint. Change even one tiny detail. Let's say you make it 499 potatoes instead of 500, you get a completely different fingerprint. So now that's where the chain comes in. Each new block doesn't just contain its own information, it contains the fingerprint of the block before it. So block 2 has its own data plus block 1's fingerprint, and block 3 has its own data plus block's 2 fingerprint. So you see, they're linked. The pattern flows from one into the next, like a chain of fingerprints where each one is built on the one before it. So now, what happens if someone goes back and tampers with block 1? Well, block 1's fingerprint changes. But now block 2 was built using the old fingerprint. Now block 2 doesn't match. And block 3 was built using block 2's fingerprint. So 3 breaks. And then 4 breaks. And then 5. Then the entire chain after the tampered block collapses. So, is blockchain unhackable? No, but it's about as close as anything that humans have built. To cheat a blockchain, you'd have to change the record on more than half of all the computers running it, all at the same time. That's called a 51% attack. For a big network like Bitcoin, with somewhere between 5 and 10 million mining computers spread across the globe, the amount of computing power you would need is staggering. We're talking nation-state level resources. You can look up hash rate dominance and start there if you want to learn more. But anyway, it's the digital equivalent of trying to rob a building that has 1 million front doors, and you need to kick down most of them at the exact same moment. Could it be done theoretically? Yeah, maybe, but it would cost billions, and the moment anyone noticed, the value of whatever you stole would collapse anyway. Smaller blockchains with fewer computers, yeah, they're more vulnerable. That's the difference between trying to rob every bank in America versus trying to rob the only ATM at a gas station. The gas station, maybe that's doable. Every bank at once? Yeah, not happening. So the honest answer is, blockchain isn't unhackable, it's just not worth trying. Now, okay, I gotta be honest with you. When I first wrote the script about Bitcoin, I said thousands of computers. Turns out that was a pretty embarrassing underestimate. The actual number is somewhere between 5 and 10 million. I regret the error, and I have put new fact-checking protocols in place. Our traveling potato, however, that's accurate. Now you might be wondering, who are all of these people running these computers, and why are they doing this? Well, that's where Bitcoin mining comes in. And yes, there is a lottery involved, and I'm going to have a whole separate video on that. So now I'm glad you're curious about this, but you might be thinking, why does any of this really matter to you? Well, because a blockchain isn't going away. It's already being used in ways that affect your life, even if you never buy a single Bitcoin. The next time you buy food and scan a QR code that tells you exactly where it came from, that's blockchain. The next time your medical records transfer seamlessly from one doctor to another, that could be a blockchain. The next time someone tries to sell you an authentic luxury item and you scan to verify it, that's blockchain. The technology isn't just for crypto enthusiasts and tech bros. It's a system for trust. It's a way to keep records that everyone can verify and nobody can secretly change. And in a world where trust is in short supply, that's not nothing. So basically, here's what blockchain is. It's a chain of records. Each record is a block. Each block contains its own information, plus the fingerprint of the block before it. The whole thing lives on millions of computers at once, so no one person controls it. Change one block, and the whole chain breaks. It's a math book that tattles. It's a potato with a passport. It's a system designed so that you don't have to trust anyone because the math does the trusting for you. And now you can explain it to someone over coffee, which means you probably understand it better than most of the people throwing the word around. And by the way, that potato you bought on Tuesday at 3:45, it traveled over 1,000 miles, changed hands at least 6 times, and has a more complete paper trail than most people's tax returns. Think about that next time you're loading it up with sour cream and bacon. Well, now thank you so much for joining me. Now, if you really like this episode, I'd appreciate a like, a subscribe, and share it with a friend. It's just me here making these, so every one of those genuinely helps. Now, I'm going to be making new episodes every week, and we got a lot of ground to cover for Season 1. Stuff like AI, blockchain, algorithms, quantum computing, how your phone knows where you are, and how Netflix picks what it thinks you want to watch, so stick around. And hopefully at the end of every one of these, you'll be walking away saying, "Oh, now I get it."